coach didn't have to change that. I have to stop it for a minute. I'm just going to stop this. Well, I'll keep the Facebook going, but I'll stop this one. I have to stop it somehow quickly. Okay, done. I have to do another one. Start. I had to do it all again because I didn't have the horizontal thing. I know what to do. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, welcome. Welcome. Just a little bit of technical hiccup. Otherwise, we're fine for our regular Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. Adi Leela, Chapter 1. Today is the 17th of April, 2025. And we're reading from our Chaitanya Charitamrita. Omagina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tralaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swatalasa Rupe, Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Varatuno Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Haripurata Sundarata Tikatam Vasatapita, Sada Fredere Kandares Vilatu Vasachinandanaha. Yam Pravajanta Manapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava. Putre titam mayatayo taravo vinidustam sarvabhutam hridim munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya vihina aparara lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanarvindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna varadram Tato manastikatena kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam naivam charantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering millions of dandavats unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all the Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My dandavat pranams to all of you. Vansha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. So it's interesting that in this chapter he glorifies the spiritual master just like we do with our Guru Vandanam, our Mangalacharyan, and then he's been glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is what we spoke about last time, how
Lord Brahma as a part of our spiritual line, our lineage, our heritage, so to speak, is disseminating this these chatushlokis to Narad. And then our whole line is beginning from there. Ultimately, it's Krishna's flute song that is gifted in the ears of Lord Brahma. First of all, Divya Saraswati pronounces the word tapa to Lord Brahma while he's seated on the lotus. He begins to perform his tapasya, and after a length of time, Krishna becomes pleased with that tapasya, and then he plays the flute, and the Kam Bij mantra manifests in the heart of Lord Brahma. And then with that Kam mantra, then he has all realization. And then he meets Krishna, and then he's gifted these 4 verses that we've been through already. So on Tuesday we discussed a little bit of Bilvamangal Thakur, and now Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's starting to describe the different saints and personalities. In other words, association, the devotees. So first of all we have Guru, and then we have the sadhus, and we have the who are gifting the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the Amala Purana, to create the platform, the foundation for everything that is about to come. And now we're continuing with our glorification of the sadhus. This is another very beautiful verse from text 63.
Bhavad vida bhagavatas tirtha putha swayam vibho tirti kuvanti tirtani swantastena gadabrita.
Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord. Therefore, they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Thank you. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage. So, purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This verse was spoken by Maharaj Yudhisthira to Vidura in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.10. Maharaj Yudhisthira was receiving his saintly uncle Vidura. Vidura's father is Vedavyas, and he was born to a maidservant. Instead of impregnating Ambika or Ambalika, that he was supposed to, that queen became afraid, and she switched places with the maidservant. So Vyasadeva, Vyas, he impregnated her. So Vidura was born of a Sudra mother, so he wasn't eligible for kingship. So Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Pandu was the first king, and then Dhritarashtra, blind Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was blind because that queen, Ambalika, she shut her eyes very tightly when Vyasadeva came in from the mountains, from the Himalayas, to impregnate her. She was expecting Bhishmadev, but instead Vyasadeva came, who was a very old man, crumpled with austerity, and he was very fearsome to look at. So she shut her eyes tightly. So the progeny of that union was Dhritarashtra, who was blind. Then the other wife was Ambalika, and she turned pale on seeing the sternness of Vyasadeva. She was also expecting Bhishmadev, because neither of them had any progeny. And so she produced Pandu, who was a very pale complexioned king, but very powerful. Both of these persons were very powerful with the semen of Vyasadeva. And then he went a third time on the order of his mother, Satyavati, and was going to again impregnate Ambalika. And it's Amba or Ambalika, I'm not sure of those names. Amba and Ambalika, yeah. Then she was afraid of him coming again, so she got the maidservant there. So Vidura is born of a maidservant, but Vidura has all of the saintly qualities, perhaps more saintly qualities than even Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Maharaj Yudhisthira was receiving his saintly uncle Vidura, who had been visiting sacred places of pilgrimage. Maharaj Yudhisthira told Vidura that pure devotees like him are personified holy places because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always with them in their hearts. By their association, sinful persons are freed from sinful reactions, and therefore wherever a pure devotee goes is a sacred place of pilgrimage. The importance of holy places is due to the presence there of such pure devotees. Just like Mother Ganga was asking, how is she going to be purified from so many people bathing in my waters? And in response, Bhagirath, he told her that the saintly persons will go and purify your waters, so you won't remain contaminated. Your waters will stay pure forever. So Krishna's Kaviraj is building this conception within his first chapter. Text 64.
Se bhakta gana hoya dvivida prakar, parisad gana eka sadaka gana.
Such pure devotees are of two types: personal association, parsads, and neophyte devotees, sadhaks. Perfect servitors, purport. Perfect servitors of the Lord are considered his personal associates, whereas devotees endeavoring to attain perfection are called neophytes. Among the associates, some are attracted by the opulences of the personality of Godhead, and others are attracted by nuptial love of Godhead. The former devotees are placed in the realm of Vaikuntha to render reverential devotional service, whereas the latter devotees are placed in Vrindavan for the direct service of Sri Krishna. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is saying everything clearly. If you have the eyes to see, you can see he's referencing the devotees are of the higher caliber being placed in Vrindavan for direct service to Krishna. And those on the Vaidhi Marg are going to Vaikuntha. Text 65 and 66.
Ishvarayata avatara etina prakar, angsha avatara ara guna avatar, Shyakta Vesha avatara tiritya e mata, angsha avatara purusha matsya dikatyata.
There are three categories of incarnations of Godhead. Now we're going to another level. We've come from the spiritual masters, we've discussed the Bhagavatam, we've come through association with devotees, and now we're coming to the description of Krishna Tattva in preparation to describe Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. So it's a sequence, a very beautifully crafted sequence that Krishna's Kaviraj is giving us. Very simple. There are three categories of incarnations of Godhead: partial incarnations, qualitative incarnations, and empowered incarnations. The Purushas and Matsya are examples of partial incarnations. There are three Purush avatars: this Lord Narayana, Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Shriyadakshay Vishnu. These three Purush. Text 67.
Brahma Vishnu Shiva Tina Guna Avatar Gani, Shyaktya Avivesha Sankadi Pritu Vyasa Muni.
Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are qualitative incarnations. Empowered incarnations are those like the Kumaras, King Prithu, and Mahamuni Vyas, the compiler of the Vedas. Text 68.
Due Rupe Haya Bhagavana Prakash, Ekata Prakasha Haya Arata Vilas.
Translation. The personality of Godhead exhibits himself in two kinds of forms, Prakash and Vilas. Purport. The Supreme Lord expands his personal forms in two primary categories. The Prakash forms are manifested by Lord Krishna for his pastimes, and their features are exactly like his. When Lord Krishna married 16,000 queens in Dwarka, he did so in 16,000 Prakash expansions. So we know the pastime of when Narad, he goes to Dwarka and he visits each palace of the queen, and each Krishna that is in each of the 16,000 palaces is engaged in a different activity. They're just not like replicas, like a yogi can manifest 50 expansions of himself, like Shabara Muni when he emerged from the Jamuna. But all those expansions are the same. Like a television set, they're producing all the same. But Krishna, all of his personalities that are manifesting, they're all different. One is engaging in joking words with his wife, another engaging in playing chess with his wife, another's engaging in taking prasad with his wife, another is engaging in playing with children with his wife. They're all doing different activities, but they're all Krishna. These are Prakash. Prakash means illumination or light coming from Krishna, Prakash. And then similarly, during the Ras dance, he expanded himself in identical Prakash forms to dance beside each and every gopi simultaneously. Now, of course, there are different explanations of this given by different acharyas. Jiva Goswami is maintaining that, yes, Krishna expanded like this, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says no. My Gurudev agrees with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Krishna danced so fast during the Ras Leela that there was only one Krishna. And he's described, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes like a firebrand that has been circled very fast, and it looks like a single wheel of light, but it's only one point of light that becomes like a wheel. So Krishna, in fact, is dancing so fast in transcendental time that each gopi is thinking that Krishna is only dancing with him exclusively. But in fact, Krishna is dancing with all the gopis simultaneously. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes, if Krishna was expanding, that would be like Aishwarya Leela. And there's no Aishwarya Leela in the Ras Leela. If he expanded like in Dwarka, that's Aishwarya. To expand in 16,000 palaces, that's Aishwarya. That's not Nara Leela. That's not human-like pastimes. So if he expands in the Ras Leela also like that, then that is Aishwarya. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur doesn't agree with that. But Jiva Goswami, he says like that. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is saying like that here. It's not a problem. It's just a different presentation of the same pastime. When the Lord manifests his Vilas expansions, however, they are all somewhat different in their bodily expansions, bodily features. Lord Balaram is the first Vilas expansion of Lord Krishna. And the four-handed Narayan forms in Vaikuntha expand from Balaram, even though they have the nature of the Samvit Shakti, which is the knowledge potency, which is manifesting ultimately from Krishna, that Samvit Shakti. Still their bodies are manifesting from Baladev Prabhu. All the bodies in creation are manifest in the Sandini Shakti. The Sandini Shakti means the existence potency. Everything that has existence, all the bodies in Vrindavan, the rivers in Vrindavan, the cows, etc., are manifested from the Sandini Shakti. And I've said repeatedly, we should also appreciate that this Sandini Shakti is manifesting from the Swarup Shakti, which is ultimately Sri Radhika. Krishna himself, he's in his independent state. Swatantra and Swaichamayita. This is the only qualities that Krishna has. And all the other energetic forms are all ultimately manifesting from Swarup Shakti. It's not that Baladev is manifesting independent of Swarup Shakti. How can he? How can it be possible? Krishna's energy manifests. That's a single potency, Shakti. And then from that energy, Swarup Shakti, everything else is manifesting. But my Gurudev describes that from Krishna's right side, Gopishwar Mahadev manifests to protect the Rasasthali. But as far as Baladeva is concerned, he is the first manifestation from Krishna. Yes, he is the first manifestation from Krishna through Swarup Shakti. It must be that way. How could it be otherwise? It's saying in Brahma Samhita also that Baladeva is the first manifestation from Krishna. He is the first manifestation, but through Swarup Shakti. Understand? How can it not be? Krishna's energetic form, his energy. However, they are all somewhat different in their bodily features. Lord Balaram is the first Vilas expansion of Lord Krishna, and the four-handed Narayan forms in Vaikuntha expand from Balaram. This is why Balaram is a Kanda, Guru, Mula, Tattva. All are coming from him to populate all the worlds, ultimately. There is no difference between the bodily forms of Sri Krishna and Balaram, except that their bodily colors are different. They're the same potency. The same potency. Similarly, Sri Narayan in Vaikuntha has 4 arms, whereas Krishna has only 2. The expansions of the Lord, who manifest such bodily differences, are known as Vilas Vigrahas. So 2 types. There's the Prakash and Vilas Vigrahas. Actually, later on in Sanatan Shiksha, these expansion forms will be described in great detail. The Vaibhav Prakash, the Prabha Prakash, etc. Many details there that Mahaprabhu explains directly to Sanatan Goswami. This is just a prelude of this. So, verse 69 and 70. Eka vigraha yadihaya bahurupa akarata beda nahi eka swarupa maishi vivhare yache kailaras ihake kahiya krishnara mukhya prakash. When the personality of Godhead expands himself in many forms, all non-different in their features, as Lord Krishna did when he married 16,000 queens, and when he performed his rasa dance, such forms of the Lord are called manifested forms, Prakash Vigraha. Text 71. Chitram Baitar Ekana Vipusha Yugapat Pritak Grihashu Dvi Asta Sarsyam Striya Eka Udavahat. It is astounding that Lord Sri Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. It's astonishing. He's showing chamatkara, this conception of astonishment at this. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:69-2. Text 72. Rasotsvara prapritya oto sampravito gopi mandala manditaha yogeshvarena krishnena tasham madhye dvayor dvayo. When Lord Krishna, surrounded by groups of cowherd girls, began the festivities of the Ras dance, the Lord of all mystic powers placed himself between each 2 girls. In either conception of Jiva Goswami, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, or Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's still utterly astonishing, adbhuta. It's beyond, it's achintya. We are here to appreciate this phenomena. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-3. Text 73-74. Pravistena grahitanam kante swa nikatam striya yamanyeran nubas tavad vamana shatasankulam dviko kasham svadaranam atyaksokya pritatmanam tato dudu bayo nedur nipetu pushpa vristaya. Translation. When the cowherd girls and Krishna thus joined together, each girl thought that Krishna was dearly embracing her alone. To behold this wonderful pastime of the Lord's, the denizens of heaven and their wives, all very eager to see the dance, flew in the sky in their hundreds of airplanes. They showered flowers and beat sweetly on drums. Krishna's Kaviraj is taking us to the whole complete limit of this cosmic creation. He's including these verses which are invoking a clear appreciation of Krishna's Rasa Leela. Straight away he's bringing this in for consideration and showing its sweetness and speciality, in importance in Krishna's pastimes, and he's introducing the conception of the devas, etc. I'm saying this because when in the Western world, when they first read this Grantha, this book, they weren't knowing about demigods. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is very beautifully, easily, smoothly introducing the demigods as if it's completely normal. And it is normal. But it's brilliant how they actually teach the neophytes the basic conceptions in very sublime ways. This is another quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33, 3 and 4. Text 75.
Anekatra prakattata rupasya kasya yokada sarvata tatsura paiva swaprakash itiryate.
If numerous forms, all equal in their features, are displayed simultaneously, such forms are called prakash vigrahas of the Lord. But they're not, their features are equal, but their activities are not equal. They're independent. Their features are the same. They're all Brajendra, they're all Dwagadish Krishna. The features identical, but the activities are completely different. Purport. This is a quotation from the Laghu Bhagavatamrita compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. Text 76.
Ekaya vigrahat Ekaya vigrahakam Ekaya vigraha kintu akara hoy ana Aneka prakasha hoya vilasa tarnama.
But when the numerous forms are slightly different from one another, they are called vilas vigrahas. So he's introducing the tattva here. Text 77.
Swarupam anyakaram yat tasya bhati vilasata prayanatma samam shaktya sa vilaso nigatayate.
When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features by his inconceivable potency, such forms are called vilas vigrahas. So the different forms are vilas and the same forms are prakash. This is another quotation from Laghu Bhagavatamrita 1:15. Text 78.
Yache Baladeva Paravyom Narayan Yache Vasudeva Pradyam Nandi Sankarshana Praduyam Nadi Sankarshana.
Translation. Examples of such vilas vigrahas are Baladev, Narayan in Vaikuntha Dham, and the Chatu Vyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha. Text 79 and 80.
Ishvara Shakti Hoya Etini Prakha Eka Lakshmi Gana Pure Mahishi Gan Ar Vraje Gopi Gana Ara Sabate Pradhan Rajendra Nananda Yate Swayam Bhagavan.
The energies, translation, the energies consorts of the Supreme Lord are of three kinds. The Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, these are energies. All the female Shakti tattvas are all described as energies. Shakti. The Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, the queens in Dwarka, and the gopis in Vrindavan. The gopis are the best of all, for they have the privilege of serving Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, the son of the king of Braj. So straight away he's giving the ontological gradation here of from Vaikuntha to Dwarka to Vrindavan. Text 81.
Swayam Rupa Krishna Kaya Vyuha Tanrasam Bhakta Sahite Haye Tanhara Avaran.
The personal associates of the primeval Lord, Sri Krishna, are his devotees, who are identical with him. Identical with him. He is complete with his entourage of devotees. The Lord is always with his devotees. Purport. Sri Krishna and his various personal expansions are non-different in potential power, their potency. So this chapter is titled Spiritual Masters. So the spiritual master's potency is manifesting from the Lord to perform the Lord's service. So that potency is bestowed. These expansions are associated with further secondary expansions or servitor expansions who are called devotees. So it's building to describe the Panchatattva, will soon be described. Text 82.
Bhakta Adikrama Kaile Sabara Vandan E Sabara Vandana Sarva Sabara Karan.
Now I have worshipped all the various levels of devotees. Worshipping them is the source of all good fortune. Yes, to serve the devotees, to worship the devotees. Purport. To offer prayers to the Lord, one should first offer prayers to his devotees and associates. Everything's going in beautiful, seamless order. Text 83.
Pratame shloke kahi samanaya manglacharan Dvitiya shloke te kari vilase vandan.
In the first verse, I have invoked a general benediction, but in the second, I have prayed to the Lord in a particular form. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining to us his systematic way that he is producing this chapter, how he is manifesting this in a very rational way. This is the second verse that we quoted in this at the beginning of this Adi Lila, text 84.
Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Suhodito Godaya Pushpa Pavanto Chitro Sando Tamo Nodo.
Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance, and thus wonderfully bestowed benediction upon all. The whole world is suffering from in ignorance of the truth. They have risen like the sun and moon to dissipate that ignorance of all the worlds. Texts 85, 86.
Vrajaye Vihare Purve Krishna Balaram Koti Surya Chandra Jini Donhara Nijdam Se Dui Jagatera Hoya Sadarai Sadaya Godesha Purva Soila Karila Udaya.
Sri Krishna and Balaram, the personalities of Godhead, who formerly appeared in Vrindavan and were millions of times more effulgent than the sun and moon, have arisen over the eastern horizon of Gaudadesh, West Bengal, being compassionate for the fallen state of the world. So see this sublime structure that he's giving us. Now he's bringing in Krishna and Balaram directly to herald Gaur Nitai. Text 87.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Aru Prabhu Nityananda Yanhara Prakasha Sarva Jagata Ananda.
The appearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda has surcharged the world with happiness. Text 88 and 89.
Surya Chandra Horeya Che Sava Adhakar Vastu Prakishya Kara Damere Prachar E Mata Dui Bai Jivere Agnan Tamanasha Kori Kaile Tattva Vastu Dam.
Translation. As the sun and moon drive away darkness by their appearance and reveal the nature of everything, these two brothers dissipate the darkness of ignorance, covering the living beings, and enlighten them with knowledge of the absolute truth. So this is substantiating that Mahaprabhu is not just some prophet like that. He's going to completely purify the entire worlds by his presence, because he's non-different to Sri Krishna. Text 90. Agyan tamara namak gahiye kaitava dharma artha karma moksha vansha adi sabha. Translation. The darkness of ignorance is called kaitava, the way of cheating, which begins with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Falshruti writes about this repeatedly. In the first few verses of Falshruti, he's totally revealing the cheating process of this dharma, artha, karma, moksha. This is a cheating process, and it's going to be explained why very clearly here, because this next verse is paramount. So this next verse is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second verse. Dharma projita kaitavatra parama nirvatsaranam shatam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayo mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krita Kim Vaparya Ishvaraha Sadyo Hridye Avarudyate Tra Kritibir Shusrubis Tat Shanat. Translation. The great scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. Materially motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being. This material religiosity is like I go with my hand out to ask the Supreme Lord for something. We described this the other day. This is karma kand. I am only engaging in my worship because I want something for me. I'm still keeping the perversion of the reality of this Mayic world in the forefront. I'm still totally bound by that Mayic illusory energy. So this is cheating. This is not pure. Pure religion is when I want to give to the Lord. That is religion. From the heart, want to please the Lord. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. This verse in Bhagavad Gita. A flower, a fruit, some water, giving to the Lord. So we discussed this the other day. Completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge. Those willing to hear the message of this scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there is no need for any scripture other than Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a fact. If you just immerse yourself even in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam under guidance, and if you speak those understandings that you have, kirtan, then you will be captured by that Bhagavatam. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact. I'm very fortunate to have had many classes teaching this Bhagavatam or coaching readers to read the Bhagavatam. Now I have many groups with people reading the 8th canto, 9th canto, 10th canto even. And they've come through the years. But every single time anybody starts to read this Bhagavatam properly with full focused attention, they can't put it down. It has a magnetism that attracts the heart because it's Krishna directly on every single page. It's so sublime, so captivating. Purport. This verse appears in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. The words Mahamuni Krite indicate that Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva, who is sometimes known as Narayan Mahamuni, because he is an incarnation of Narayan. Vyasadeva, therefore, is not an ordinary man, but is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He compiled the beautiful Bhagavatam to narrate some of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. We remember his birth from Parashara Rishi was crossing the Jamuna with one fisher lady. Satyavati was her name. And she, in a previous birth, had been an apsara, and she'd been cursed into the body of a fish. So her whole body smelt of fish. But Parashara Rishi took that boat to cross the Jamuna. And halfway across the Jamuna, he could see astrologically if this fisherwoman gives birth to a child now, he'll be a Shaktivesh avatar. Therefore, I should impregnate her to facilitate the birth of this Shaktivesh avatar. So Parashara Rishi, in his mystical opulence, manifested an island, Dvaipayana. And then he explains to, who is Satyavati, explains to her that there's a great fortune if she gives birth to a child now. But Satyavati explains that I'm not married. And Parashara explains, I will not inject you bodily, I will do it by mind. So by mind he impregnates Satyavati. And immediately she gives birth to a child who immediately grows to maturity in front of them after a short space of time. On that island that he manifested, he makes a cloud come over the island so no one can perceive what's actually happening. And this son, who is Vyasadeva, manifests from the womb of Satyavati. And then Vyasadeva, he circumambulates his mother at that time and says, whenever you need me, you just have to think of me and I will come immediately. And then he goes across to the Himalayas to meditate. And we already mentioned today that Satyavati, the mother, she calls Vyasadeva to impregnate these 3 queens, or 2 queens in fact. So that's why Vyasadeva is the father of Vidura. But this is the birth of Vyasadeva from Parashara Rishi and from Satyavati. That's her name. In Srimad Bhagavatam, a distinction between real religion and pretentious religion can be clearly made. According to this original and genuine commentation on the Vedanta Sutra, there are numerous pretentious faiths that pass as religion but neglect the real essence of religion. The real essence of religion is devotion to the Supreme Lord. The real religion of a living being is his natural inborn quality, whereas pretentious religion is a form of nescience that artificially covers a living entity's pure consciousness under certain unfavorable conditions. We described the other day about nishag. Nishag is that influence on the jiva that will compel him to believe that he's the material body. The atmosphere, and the example was given of water becoming ice. And if you inquire from the ice, so what is your swabhav, what is your nature? The ice will say, I'm hard. Because of the atmosphere in the freezing cold, it's become hard. But actually its real swadharma is liquid. And when the warm current comes, it will again go to liquidity. So similarly, we also are in this same abnormal condition, acquired nature. We've taken this acquired nature because we wanted to enjoy matter. And as long as we persist in the desire to enjoy matter, we'll stay with that same false ego conception. Thinking I'm the body, and how fearful it will be to leave my body. There's not a single entity on the planet that wants death to come to it, unless it's a crazy man that wants suicide or something like that. There's no creature, no dog, no animal, anything that wants to die. This is one of Lord Brahma's, it's called nascent engagements. In the third canto, in the 12th chapter, in the second verse, 3:12:2, it's described about the 5 nascent engagements that Lord Brahma puts as a coating over the jiva when he's first manifested. There's fear of death is one of them. Anger after frustration is another. A sense of false ownership is another. Bewilderment about this material world and bewilderment about our identity. These 5, they're called nascent engagements. It's fascinating to appreciate. Lord Brahma, he doesn't like this service at all, and he gives up that body. Krishna indicates you give up that conception, just drop it. So he drops that conception because he felt it was a sinful. He didn't want to do it. But we all have impressed in us this fear of death. And what has happened, we've all become attached to this bodily platform. I'm often thinking of one material movie that was out many years ago about, it was called The Matrix. And there's an instance there where the heroes are understanding the illusion of the world. And this one person who is with the heroes, he wants to again go into the illusion of the world deliberately. He becomes frustrated with the situation, with the rebels, so to speak, who are understanding the situation. And he wants to again come into the material world and really believe that this is real, this food is real. I'm tasting this food, this drink is... And we see depicted, it's very interesting from a devotee point of view, we can see that he's going into this dreamlike... He wants to go into it because he's so ferocious to want to enjoy matter. He thinks that there can be a higher taste of happiness in matter. Sometimes people become frustrated in their spiritual journey, thinking that, oh, I just want to go back into matter. But once you've begun your spiritual journey, it's not possible to go back into matter. There's too many boundaries have been broken in your consciousness. You can't actually go back there and enjoy. And if you try to, you'll suffer even more intensely. You'll be kicked so hard because Krishna has opened doors for you to walk through on the path of transcendence. And you've just determinedly tried to walk back again. This is the most unfortunate predicament that people can get up to. And it happens. We know. Even amongst devotees, they fall down and they try to enter spiritual life again. And we see the examples. We should see clearly. They get kicked like anything. Because it's trying to walk away from Krishna when he's kindly opened the door. He wants us. He keeps us. He holds us. This pretentious religion is a form of nescience that artificially covers the living entity's pure consciousness under certain unfavorable conditions. That's what we just described. Real religion lies dormant when artificial religion dominates from the mental plane. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhav sasadanabhita nitya siddhyasya bhavasya prakritam hridi sadhyate. Prakritam, means in potential. This nitya siddha is in potential within the jiva, but it's become covered by the extent of our material desires alone. This is the key. It's very simple to understand, but not so easy to put into practice because we're bound by these because we haven't controlled our minds. A living being can awaken his dormant religion by hearing with a pure heart. The path of religion prescribed by Srimad Bhagavatam is different from all forms of imperfect religiosity. Religion can be considered in the following 3 divisions. So now he's describing what is this religiosity, imperfect religiosity. The path of fruitive work, number 1. I'm thinking that by my actions in this world, I will get some happiness. If I build a wonderful guest house, I work very hard, I'll become very happy by this. This will give me some satisfaction and joy in the material world. At the same time, we have to attend to our material necessities. But it's the attachment. This is the point. In any situation, if detachment can be inspired, then happiness will come in the heart fully. But if attachment remains, then it's going to be difficult. Huh?
attachment bond or suffering.
Yes, this is the problem. If we become materially successful, we become attached to our successes materially. If there's a speaker, for example, and he has so many followers, he becomes attached to being like a leader of so many people. And then if Krishna chooses to actually change that situation, he becomes very disturbed by that. Or if somebody becomes successful building temples and then something crashes, and he'll be, most unhappy. In every single situation, detachment is required. Abhyasena kuntaya. Yes. Vairagya. This verse in Bhagavad Gita is saying, Arjuna is asking how to control this wild mind. And Krishna responds in the 6th chapter. Abhyasena vairagya. By practice and renunciation. Renunciation means what? It means renouncing those material pleasures. Renouncing the effort to acquire those material pleasures. 2. The path of knowledge and mystic powers. This is very much sought after today. And 3. The path of worship and devotion. This is mukti, bhukti and bhakti. What's that verse? Mukti, bhukti, spriha yavat. Which starts there. With that verse? Mukti, bhukti, spriha yavat. It's Chachi. It's saying these two witches. Yes. Very beautiful verse. We'll get it in a second. Mukti, bhukti, spriha yavat. Or bhukti, mukti, maybe it is.
It's bhukti mukti.
Bhukti, mukti? Yes, but these 3 paths of bhukti, or mukti, or bhakti.
Bhukti mukti spriya yavat pishachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukhasyatra katham abhyudayo bhavet.
What's the number? Page?
239.
239. 239. This is most applicable to what we're saying. 239. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pischachi hridi vartate tavat bhakti sukhasyatra kartham abhyudayo bhavat. Yes, this is saying, as long as the 2 witches, namely the desire for material enjoyment and the desire for impersonal liberation, these are the first 2 that Prabhupada is mentioning. The first is the desire for material enjoyment. The second is the desire for impersonal liberation. Remain in the heart of the sadhak. How can the happiness of pure bhakti be awakened there? As long as these desires are there. Because the third is the path of worship and devotion, devotional service. The path of fruitive work, karma kand, even when decorated by religious ceremonies meant to elevate one's material condition, is a cheating process because it can never enable one to gain relief from material existence and achieve the highest goal. A living entity perpetually struggles hard to rid himself from the pangs of material existence, but the path of fruitive work leads him to either temporary happiness or temporary distress in material existence. We see, just like in Bengal, it has the highest number of people worshipping Durga Devi. They have the biggest Durga Puja festival in the world. There's no bigger, and it's right in Navadvip, centered in Navadvip. And they all worship Durga Ma for some material benefit. And they all think that they can enjoy, but distress will come simultaneously. By pious fruitive work, one is placed in a position where he can temporarily feel material happiness, whereas vicious activities lead him to a distressful position of material want and scarcity. However, even if one is put into the most perfect situation of material happiness, he cannot in that way become free from the pangs of birth, death, old age and disease. We remember the story of Alexander the Great. He conquered so much of the world. And when he was leaving his body with a disease, he had many doctors working with him, working to try and save his life. And then he instructed, you doctors have to carry my, the briar where my body is on, when I leave this world, so everyone can see that the doctors couldn't save my life. And you take all my wealth and you distribute it on the path where I'm going, so everyone can see that I'm not taking my wealth with me. You can't save me and I can't take my wealth with me. So what is the path of life? Understand? There's a third one, but I can't quite remember it. I'll remember it tomorrow. However, even if one is put into the most perfect situation of material happiness, he cannot in that way become free from the pangs of birth, death, disease, and old age. A materially happy person is therefore in need of the eternal relief that mundane religiosity, in terms of fruitive work, can never award. It's a simple lesson to hear, but it's very hard to continue that. You might get the seed of that idea, but to continue it your whole life, that's another challenge, because there will become many opportunities when it becomes difficult in our practice and we just want to revert, like I described in that video, that film. You just want to revert back into the material consciousness, but you can't. The path of the culture of knowledge, Gyan Marg, and of mystic powers, Yoga Marg, are equally hazardous, for one does not know where one will go by following these uncertain methods. An empiric philosopher in search of spiritual knowledge may endeavor most laboriously for many, many births in mental speculation, but unless and until he reaches the stage of the purest quality of goodness, in other words, until he transcends the plane of material speculation, it is not possible for him to know that everything emanates from the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Without coming to transcendence, one can never be satisfied. We are transcendental entities. That is our constitution. Jivara Sarupoi, Krishnara Nitidas. And unless that constitute, like the ice block, for example, we just described, that acquired nature, unless that acquired nature is purified, how can you come back to your original godlike nature? But then comes another big challenge of the Mayavad. They come to that point, then they think, oh, actually, I am that God. This is another dangerous point. This is why guidance, this is why the rising of the sun and moon of Mahaprabhu is so imperative, because it dispels this final ignorance of being God themselves. An empiric philosopher in search of spiritual knowledge may endeavor most laboriously for many, many births in mental speculation, but unless and until he reaches the stage of purest quality of goodness, in other words, until he transcends the plane of material speculation, it is not possible for him to know that everything emanates from the personality of Godhead. His attachment to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord makes him unfit to rise to that transcendental stage of Vasudeva understanding, and therefore, because of his unclean state of mind, he glides down again into material existence, even after having ascended to the highest stage of liberation. So even after liberation, one can descend. This fall down takes place due to his want of a locus standi in the service of the Supreme Lord, in want of his understanding of what is his position, because it's all ignorance. We're talking about Mahaprabhu dispelling the ignorance in the world. That was what the verse was about previously. The sun and the moon arising with their illumination, dispelling the ignorance of the world. What is the ignorance? It's these three paths: fruitive work and path of Gyan. Well, two paths, or mystic yoga, we can say, is like a third. But the only path is dedicated devotion. As far as the mystic powers of the yogis are concerned, they are also material entanglements on the path of spiritual realization. One German scholar who became a devotee of Godhead in India said that material science had already made laudable progress in duplicating the mystic powers of the yogis. Look at this mystic power. You just got to press a switch and the light comes. I got to press another switch, a fan comes. I'm sitting here in front of these boxes, and I'm manifesting my body all around the globe. This is circulating the globe like a yogi. We have all these amazing powers at our fingertips that we're using. If we use them to glorify Krishna, then it's the greatest success. If we use them for any other purpose, it's the greatest unfortunate situation that can happen to us. He therefore came to India not to learn the method of the yogi's mystic powers, but to learn the path of transcendental loving service to the Lord. As mentioned in the great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, mystic powers can make a yogi materially powerful and thus give temporary relief from the miseries of birth, death, old age and disease, as other material sciences can also do. But such mystic powers can never be a permanent source of relief from the miseries. My Gurudev tells a story of one sadhak, and he went and practiced for 12 years how to walk on water in the Himalaya. And then he came into one village and was showing how he could walk on water on one lake. But then another man came and said, well, for 2 rupees I can cross the lake in my boat. Why do I want to walk on water? You've wasted 12 years of your life practicing this mystic art, but I just for 2 paisa can just cross the river easily. So why do you do it? What is the purpose? Just to show off to people? What have you got for that? What is the achievement? Nothing.
YouTube is working.
Huh?
YouTube is working.
Yeah, it seems to be. Is it not working?
It's buffering.
Buffering, okay. Therefore, according to the Bhagavad school, this path of religiosity is also a method of cheating its followers. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly defined that the most elevated and powerful mystic yogi is one who can constantly think of the Supreme Lord within his heart and engage in the loving service of the Lord. What's that last verse of the 6th chapter in Bhagavad Gita? Yoginam api sarvesham. Yes, this verse. Joy, tell me. Yoginam api sarvesham. Yoginam api sarvesham madgadinantar atmanam Shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo matha. This is the highest form of yoga that is described at the end of the 6th chapter. The path of worship of the innumerable devas or administrative demigods is still more hazardous and uncertain than the above mentioned process of karma kanda and gyan kanda. So the devas are still in a more difficult position because they have so much power and they're worshipping the Brahman ultimately. This is what they were. The deva birth is called Bhoga Yoni, the species of pleasure. From the heavenly planets you cannot attain transcendence. The guru of the heavenly planets is described as being Brahman realized. This is Brihaspati. You cannot go from there. Like the story of Indra. He comes, tries to murder the residents of Braj, begs forgiveness deeply, apparently, and then a few weeks later Krishna asks him for a parijat flower. He says no. So where was his faith in the Lord? So you can't reach transcendence from Swargaloka. This system of worshipping many gods such as Durga, Shiva, Ganesh, Surya and the impersonal Vishnu form is accepted by persons who have been blinded by an intense desire for sense gratification. When properly executed in terms of the rites mentioned in the Shastras, which are now very difficult to perform in this age of want and scarcity, such worship can certainly fulfill one's desires for sense gratification. But the success obtained by such methods is certainly transient, and it is suitable only for the less intelligent persons. This is the verdict of Bhagavad Gita. No sane man should be satisfied by such temporary benefits. I think I'll stop now because we've had almost more than an hour of hearing these remarkable truths, and generally our ability to digest much more is not that capacity. So I'm going to complete this purport tomorrow. there's still another almost 2 pages of this purport to go. So I'm going to complete this comment. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is laying down this foundation very categorically in tune with Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, with where Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is coming from. Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining the tattva of Krishna, the prakash manifestations of Krishna, the vilas manifestations of Krishna. He's explained the spiritual masters, he's explained the Chatushloki, he's explaining it very systematically. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is explaining very mercifully the pitfalls of this material world. What is this illusory energy? What is it doing to us? How is it affecting us? We're all just falling in this swamp of bewilderment due to this illusion, due to my own material desires. I'm holding onto the tree and I'm shouting, let go, let go. I am the one with the key. So we'll complete this purport tomorrow, and then also tomorrow we should complete this first chapter, definitely. We'll complete the first chapter tomorrow, and we'll begin chapter 2 next Monday. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's being built on a very solid foundation. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyascha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.